Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. A friend of mine is getting married next week in Denver to a woman from Spain. But the bride's sister will not be allowed in the country for the wedding because she is unvaccinated. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has been flooding southern Republican states with undocumented and unvaccinated immigrants. Apparently, the Biden administration believes that only people who attempt to enter the country legally are potential carriers of disease. And the Biden administration refuses to give any information to the governors about who it is who's being sent to their states. The Biden administration has been secretly flying undocumented and unvaccinated individuals into Republican states. So these governors have been sending the individuals to northern states to force Democrats to deal with the problem they created. Here's a group being dropped off in front of the vice president's house in Washington, D.C. This made Joe Biden very angry. He says it's un-American and reckless. 50 undocumented individuals were dropped off this week in the very wealthy, progressive neighborhood of Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. People in Martha's Vineyard have signs in their yard saying, "We stand with immigrants and all are welcome here." That's a belief system which doesn't seem to last very long, though, after the immigrants actually arrive.
We have, at some point in time, they have to move from here to somewhere else, right? We don't have the services to take care of 50 immigrants, and we certainly don't have housing. We're in a housing crisis as we are on this island, and so we can't house everyone here that lives here and works here. We don't have housing for 50 more people.
She says they don't have housing for 50 more people, but just one home at Martha's Vineyard could house all 50 of them easily. One of Barack Obama's mansions is located at Martha's Vineyard. It's on 29 acres, has 7 bedrooms, and 8.5 bathrooms. The home's worth almost $20 million, has a nice swimming pool, and a very nice beach. I'm sure these 50 immigrants would be quite comfortable there. Apparently, Joe Biden believes it's un-American to expect Democrats' actions to live up to their words. I've spent most of my life living in progressive Democratic communities. 4 years ago, I spent the spring in the very progressive Philadelphia suburb of Wyncote. It was the coldest and snowiest spring on record there. The snow kept coming and coming and coming. This was the first day of spring in Washington, D.C., when the cherry blossoms were supposed to be blooming. This was March 22nd in front of Albert Einstein's house in Princeton, New Jersey, with Dr. Will Happer. I took this photograph on April 1st, 2018 at the house next door. Barack Obama hadn't run for president for 6 years, but this guy still had his Obama sign up in the yard and it was half buried in snow. The weather conditions were kind of rough on cars that April. This probably isn't what people expect to see during April around Philadelphia, but Toto really enjoyed it. I took this drone shot from above showing the house I was staying in. We spent a lot of time shoveling the driveway. This house on the right was the one with the Obama sign buried in snow. Now let's take a closer look at the house on the left. They had this sign in their yard: "Hate has no home here." And they repeated the word hate in 6 different languages. Now let's take a closer look at that sign in that house on Google Street View. Apparently they still have the sign up 4 years later. They have a lot of bumper stickers on their car and their yard's a bit of a mess. Apparently they have a lot of important issues they need to tell the world about. I was staying in the house next door where a musician lived. On nights when his chamber music group was rehearsing, the driveway would get filled up with cars. So one night after I got home from work, I parked right here. The person who lived in this house became very angry. He came running out of the house and started screaming at me, apparently for blocking the beautiful view of his yard. So I quickly learned why he has the word hate written in 6 different languages on a sign in front of his house. Apparently hatred is a very integral part of his personality. The house is located in this beautiful upper middle class, almost exclusively white neighborhood right here. But on the other side of the 309, it's a completely different world. These are the giant apartment homes which are almost exclusively occupied by poor black people. The west side of the 309 is a completely different world from the east side. I went into the Walmart one night and people were looking at me like I was crazy. I was the only white person in the store. The wealthy white people had carefully organized the area so that they could stay exclusively on the other side of the freeway. And they could safely put up these signs in their segregated neighborhood saying, "Hate has no home here." A few months later, there was an active shooter at that Walmart. 8 people were shot in that Walmart that night, but we can be quite certain that the upper middle class white people on the other side of the freeway were safe. Democrats love to put signs like this up in their yard, but when actually faced with reality, they back down quickly and demonstrate that they don't believe any of the things they're saying. And it would also appear that Barack Obama is not so worried about sea level rise after all. 55 years ago, Malcolm X explained white liberal Democrats.
That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox.
Toto's been around for a long time and he's been lots of different places. He agrees with Malcolm X. You can visit Toto, Kyrie Caesar, Toki, and Upala on the web at realclimatescience.com.